Live from the bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, it's Aaron, it's Danae, it's Captain Logan, it's the Critic, the Geek, and the Girl, it's SiftPop, it's Shoe the Dough, right now.
It's everything.
It's everything.
It's all the things at
It's
the
all
one
the
time.
things ever.
It's a grab bag special.
Man, what a day.
Oh,
this
man.
has already been, thanks for joining us live.
Yeah.
What a day it's already been. Go ahead, tell a little bit about kind of like the previous little bit of our day before we introduce Captain here.
Well, we did our live radio show this morning, and so we were on air this morning. As soon as we finished up on air, we immediately were visited by our first ever artists coming to the studio be interviewed.
As the band Carrollton came by.
Oh my goodness.
And they are amazing.
Carrollton are amazing. If you've never had an opportunity to hear Carrollton, please go listen to them. I know they're on Spotify. If you have Spotify and you just want to kind of like listen to a little bit of clip, they've got a new album coming out and they sang a song for us. I'm still reeling from listening to that song.
It was powerful. We videoed it. We'll probably put that up on our Aaron and Danae YouTube. I'm guessing we'll put up the song so you can see it there.
Okay.
We will also, the interview we did, we'll put the whole interview, which is about an hour long we did with them.
We'll do an episode for...
we'll put it up for our bonus, for our Patreon today. The whole thing today.
Yay!
So that you can hear that interview with them if you're a supporter. But we'll also put up a portion of it on the show next week, on Tuesday. So we'll edit a portion of it for the show Tuesday that you can hear if you don't support, so you can hear a little bit of it. But man, that was really exciting. But it pushed us right up to the limit going live here, and so we're kind of a flutter.
They walked out the door, we turned around, and we're multitasking like superheroes.
Well, because we had to set up like all our lapel mics. We have 3 lapel mics we had to set up for them, and so we're trying to get everything, switched back. So I would be happy in the comments if you just let us know that you can actually hear us. That would that would make me happy.
That's a really good point. There is a chance that nobody can hear us right now. That would be terrible.
So yes, if somebody could just comment.
The BDG says no, he can't hear us.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Good to know.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we are excited to once again introduce the OG Geek, the original gangsta. This is Captain Logan. Thanks for joining us today, Cap.
Direct from Geek Evolution headquarters, it's Captain Logan.
I was like, oh no, what happened to our technical stuff now? There he is, Captain Logan.
So we're going to be talking Pixels, the latest Adam Sandler movie that just came out. We'll also be talking our favorite classic video games, and then we'll be doing a piece of buried treasure at the end. Also, we'll be doing spoilers for Pixels after the show, which we will release on the SiftPop podcast feed. So if you subscribe to SiftPop, you'll be able to hear the spoiler talk that comes after the show.
And thanks to our Patreon supporters for making all of this possible. And I'm excited to dive into this movie for today's podcast. We went to go see it last night. So I had, thankfully, I did not have pixel dreams. I was a little worried about that.
All right, I'm going to play a little bit of a clip and then we'll talk.
Oh, okay.
Let's hit it!
Pac-Man's faster than I remember.
Pac-Man's always been faster than the Ghost. We're gonna have to outmaneuver.
We got him! He's got nowhere to go! Oh, God, no!
Brenner, get out! He's going to eat you!
So our heroes in this movie have to play real-life video games against aliens who are apparently interpreting our classic arcade games to attack us with. So, and there's a whole backstory we don't necessarily need to get into here. Maybe we can do that on the spoilers. But you listen to that clip and you kind of hear the sense, right? They are playing real-life Pac-Man. So our heroes are in cars that are the ghosts. There's a pixelized Pac-Man in the streets of New York, and they are trying to capture him, and that's kind of how the movie goes for a lot of it.
Right off the bat, I would say that the portions of this movie that are video game centric, where you've got these, we're being attacked by video game characters and they're having to save the world by playing the video games. That was pretty much the standout part. There's 2 standout parts to this film for me, and one of them was definitely the nostalgic element of watching these video games come to life.
Oh, I'm sure. Let's talk generalities first. Cap, what did you think generally of this movie? Did you have a good time? No?
Generally, it was so far the biggest disappointment for me of the year.
Ooh, disappointment. So not only did you not like it, but you were expecting to have a good time at it?
Oh, yeah. It was one of the movies I was most looking forward to this year.
Oh, that's a bummer.
So tell me a little bit. Let's go a little bit deeper into that. So what were you, why were you so excited about it? Just because of the nostalgia factor?
Yeah, and it's one of those things where the nostalgia factor is there, and I was surprised by the sheer number of licenses that they were able to get and stuff, and like a lot of the references were super fun and super cool. But bottom line for me is they advertised a family movie, and that's not what they made.
Yeah, and I talked a little bit about that in my radio review, where I talk a little bit more about whether or not you should take your kids, those kind of things. Adam Sandler, he has a really. His sense of humor is kind of lewd, and
yeah, well, duh. Yeah, but to be honest, this is a way less lewd movie than I'm used to seeing from Adam Sandler.
Well, that could be true.
So if you're comparing Adam Sandler movies to this movie, even though there are undertones and there are throwovers to sexual innuendos and things like that.
Well, let's just put it out there. I mean, there's a lot of threesome talk. It's not just it's pretty.
Do you say a lot?
It's throughout the movie.
Okay.
I mean, I guess it's one reference throughout the movie. Maybe I should have saved that for the spoilers.
Perhaps. Although it wouldn't be surprising to anybody who's seen an Adam Sandler movie.
So, was it more than just the disappointment of did you end up taking your kids?
No, luckily I didn't. Almost did. And then something happened, and I wasn't able to bring my wife and Jason. And I'm glad I didn't, because I know my wife wouldn't have liked a lot of things about this movie, and I just don't think that it's appropriate for my kid. And I feel like what they advertised was something that would be. Danae's right that it's tame in comparison to some of Adam Sandler's other movies, but he's done family things before that are more okay for kids than this. I think Click probably is, but then I just don't know. I just feel like what I saw in the trailers, they were trying to make a big deal out of. Don't worry, it's not an Adam Sandler movie, and then it totally was.
Interesting. When we go into the spoilers part, and again, you can if you want to listen to our spoiler segment, you can grab that in a SiftPop feed in iTunes or Stitcher. I'm looking forward to kind of going into specifically what bothered you as a parent, to really kind of dig out those parts that were offensive and talk about that. So
cool. What do you think generally, Danae?
It was awful. It was awful in a way that I was like, I don't know.
I saw your tweet, which was amazing, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
That it turned your brain into pixels.
And I wanted to hit the reset button. And hopefully my brain cells came back. It was such a waste of time for me. And there were parts of it that I was like, oh, am I starting to have a good time? And then no, I never really ramped into it. I wanted to have a good time. I felt myself trying to kind of okay, maybe I'm starting to buy into it. Maybe I'm starting to get into it now. And then very disappointed. But I mean, this is just I think Aaron, you said it was lowbrow. I mean, this is just, there is no plot. There is there technically is a plot,
but it's just so lazy.
It's a lazy plot. And so, yeah, I did not have a good time. I described it on the radio this morning as ridiculous. And I think that's the best thing I can come back to is it's just a ridiculous movie.
I line up with you guys as well. I didn't enjoy it. It's just Adam Sandler doing that thing that I just think is played out. That type of comedy just doesn't feel real or interesting to me anymore. And I don't just mean the lowbrow aspect of it. I just mean the simplicity of it. There's nothing smart about it. And so the only laughs I had, and maybe we can kind of go more into specific things we like, since it sounds like we didn't like it overall. Maybe we can all pull something we did like. I liked Josh Gad. I thought he was funny. The parts I found myself getting into were his parts. And I think, the only times I laughed, which maybe happened 3 times, were things that he did or things that he said or something like that.
Captain, did you laugh?
I laughed at a lot of references and things, but for as we were saying, for every time I laughed, there was another place where I wanted to Captain Picard facepalm, but yeah, I mean, so the first 10 minutes, I thought I was in for exactly what I was hoping for. Because I thought that the opening flashback stuff I thought was great. and I thought that the movie wasn't playing fair with its audience because it suddenly turns into a different movie. And I think that if you're going to be a somewhat lewder kind of thing, you've got to put more lewd stuff at the beginning so that you're playing fair with your audience and letting them know what they're getting themselves into. And it was exactly the movie that I was excited to see, and then all of a sudden, it turned into something else. But no, like I said, a lot of the references I thought were funny.
I did not laugh one time.
Wow, really? Okay.
Yeah, but I think you appreciated in correct me if I'm wrong, obviously. You appreciated the references for what they were. It's just that wasn't a laugh response to you. Like that nostalgia was probably there.
I was Captain Picard face palming through the whole thing. I rolled my eyes so many times in this movie. I mean, it was utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to laugh. I did crack a smile a few times, but it was like, and I was really trying, you guys, because I know, I don't like going to movies anyway.
Okay, can I give you a specific thing? Because honestly, I'm having a difficult time remembering things I liked because I was so surprised by how much I didn't like it. So things are suddenly coming to me. Brian Cox cracked me up.
Oh yeah. Brian Cox he played the head military guy.
Wow.
And part of that's because I'm a huge Brian Cox fan, but like some of this, and I mean, he was entirely inconsistent, but every now and again he would say a thing, and I would crack up.
Since we're in performances, what did you guys think of Peter Dinklage?
Okay, so that is the part that I would say there's a couple things I enjoyed. One of them was, the CG and kind of like the movie really shown in a couple places with just some fun CG and, that kind of thing. And the other one was that
it looks good.
Yeah, it did. It looked good. The other things that I was like, I think I'm starting to enjoy myself were some of the performances, because there are some really great actors and actresses kind of like in here that I've seen in other things I enjoy. But here, it was almost like, I don't know how to, it kind of reminded me of, what is the guy's name from, oh my goodness, I'm going to have a brain freeze.
It's okay. Who are you talking? Are you talking about Dinklage?
Yeah, Dinklage and, any of them.
Okay.
Even
Kevin James.
Even Kevin. Not as much Kevin, but all of them. They all kind of had a moment when they sort of started to rise to the surface a little bit and have like a fun run, like a good comedy moment. But it still sort of was falling short for me. But I actually enjoyed watching Peter Dinklage. I did.
I thought his performance was good in a performance aspect. Like
he was a great
He's
performance.
obviously a great actor. Like you could tell he was really embodying this over-the-top comedy thing, and it was definitely a specific type of performance, but it just didn't work for me overall.
Jupiter Ascending, in that movie, there's the one brother that talks with like a real whisper.
Yes.
And he's like so into his character, and everybody else is just kind of like, meh. That's sort of how I felt about Peter Dinklage, and even maybe a little bit of Josh, but Josh had a better, like, just goofy performance.
Right.
Peter was like more serious.
Yeah. The Dinklage performance felt a little bit over the top for me. What did you think, Cap?
Well, first of all, Danae, I'm still trying to suppress Jupiter Ascending, so don't bring that movie out, man.
You're just still trying to wipe it from your memory forever.
Like, it's like awkward moments from childhood. I'm just trying to get it out of my mind.
Yeah, I understand.
What were we talking about, Dinklage? So it was bizarre rewatching X-Men Days of Future Past and then immediately going to see this.
Yeah.
Because I did that yesterday afternoon, and then I immediately went to Pixels.
Wow.
I think it emphasizes, though, that he does play different characters.
He's great. He's so versatile. Yeah,
he's dynamic.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
They blew my mind with the 1982 stuff, but I just don't get the script is just bad. just and I get that they're basing him off of a real life video game player who was that full of himself and acted like that. But overall, like, none of these characters are likable.
That's a good point. I'm trying to think who I like.
Nobody's I guess, like, Kevin James is sort of likable, but then I don't even buy that whole thing.
The whole thing, the whole plot is so, obviously it's unrealistic. That's just a given.
And that's fine if we're consistent about it, right? Like it's not the absurd farce that it should be to do some of the stuff it's trying to get away with, especially, and we probably can't get too far into this, but especially when you get into some of the physically impossible stuff that they make major plot points. Like I said, not playing fair with the audience. Like, is this a world with regular physics and then aliens attack it? Or is it already a heightened universe? I don't know.
Right. Well, in this universe, James can be president, so...
Anything's possible.
Anything is possible.
Yes, but that doesn't change the laws of physics. Maybe
I don't know.
Maybe it does.
I don't know. If
Maybe
Kevin
it
James
does.
can be president, I think everything's up for grabs. I totally agree.
But can I ask a question though? Maybe we don't know this. Like, what was the budget for this movie?
It wasn't big. It was like 90 million.
See, to me, what I think that they should have done was feed homeless and needing people around the world, other than make this movie.
Yeah, and what's really
that
sad
can be said about any movie, though. To be fair,
I know that's true.
But Danae, what's sad about that is there is no reason that 90 million. I'm seeing. But there's no reason that this shouldn't have been really fun and clever. You know, I mean, like it's a thing I wanted to be good. I mean, just because you base a movie on a 4-minute short doesn't mean that you can't get mileage beyond the 4 minutes. You know, I mean, like there is potentially a cool movie here. All you really have to do is be a little bit smarter about it. I mean, like really, there's no reason not to just give every man, woman, and child one of those light guns, right? Like, seriously, like, there's no reason that these 4 people are the only ones that can save us. I mean, if we were a little smarter than that and then built some mythology for the aliens, I mean, these are the most generic aliens in the world. Besides the fact that they look like games I played when I was a kid, these are the most generic aliens in the universe. I mean, you have bizarre inconsistencies where we're just being super. I mean, Danae, this is as lazy of a script as Minions was. It's that lazy.
And I would say that
maybe sort of more so.
Yeah, and I agree.
I'm like, you know, you look at the different video games that they bring down. How come Pac-Man's the only one where the aliens are suddenly the good guy? Doesn't make any sense. And then why is it that that now our good guys are the only people that can play that game? But it's just now their ghost has nothing to do with patterns. And they're driving cars. Just get NASCAR drivers.
I know, and I can't wait. There's some things I really want to talk about in that, but I do feel like maybe they're more for the spoiler part. I don't want to spoil
too much, but that's all in the trailer, and it didn't make any sense then, and it doesn't make any sense now.
I think basically if you decide that you're going to go to this movie, it's because you're at this point genuinely curious about it, and that's okay. And you might enjoy it. In fact, Aaron, I think you actually heard a couple guys talking about the movie.
When I walked out, the 2 guys behind me were like, dude, that was the best movie I've ever seen.
I am afraid for our future as a society. If that's something that they actually were saying and not being sarcastic.
No, you know what? That is something worth talking about, though, because with what we do, when we talk about movies and we look, you know, with a critical eye at them, I think it's important and it's valuable to think about these things, but at the same time, I don't want anybody to ever feel bad about liking something. You know what I mean? Like, if you go and have a good time, if you're able to enjoy something, I say bravo. You know, go have a good time.
I hope you did. You spent your hard-earned money and your time off of work to see a thing.
Well, you know, we're talking about. So they had a budget for it. I mean, it's obvious. There's action sequences in this, you know, but they do try to pack in a lot. They try to pack in a love story. They try to pack in, relationship stories on these different dynamic levels and friendship stories.
Yeah, but they're just lazily checking boxes. They're not being creative in any way.
It's very much like, okay, what do we need?
We're filling time because we don't have the money to put that on screen the entire
We spent
movie.
our entire budget on making the pixels look good.
Yeah.
You know,
which, by the way, can I say they do?
They look great.
I think it looks great.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it looks really, really good. And it's the most action I think I can remember seeing in an Adam Sandler movie. I do have to say real quick before I forget, I had no idea what this movie was about or who was in it until I saw his name at the opening credits.
How did that feel? You went completely blank into this.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was kind of excited because I did not know what to expect. It just says pixels, so I'm thinking this could be just about anything. And I remember there being a picture of, and it's the poster of the Pac-Man, you know, in the city. And so I didn't, you know, that could mean anything. So when I saw Adam Sandler, I was like, what? and then as we started, you know, you talked about the very beginning kind of it being like a backstory type thing. See, I thought that could be part of the story itself. So I didn't realize we were going to be skipping forward in time, and suddenly, you know, these two young boys were watching in the 80s, playing arcade games, were going to become Adam Sandler and James and this other cast of characters. So I also was a little disappointed that we didn't spend more time in the 80s, but we moved so quickly through that. It was just checking boxes is a perfect way to describe it.
Can I just say one thing and then let you continue? I thought those kid actors were perfectly cast.
Yeah, they were great.
That is something Sandler seems to do well, is cast younger versions of himself and his fellow actors. Like that, like the Dinklage. Like was that like CG Dinklage? Like
I'm almost positive it was. That's why I said they really got me with that. Although okay, now that you say that,
no way.
I gotta look that up and find out.
Yeah, look that up. There's no way, because that.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was someone named Andrew Bambridge. Well, he's doing a perfect Peter Dinklage,
right?
right?
Oh yeah, they spent time together mimicking each other, and
I feel like I've seen him in something too. Now that I'm thinking about it. But anyway, wow, that's fascinating. Although he doesn't have a wiki page, so.
You know, I'm trying to figure out who I would say could enjoy this movie. But I really think it's just hardcore Adam Sandler fans.
People who like these kind of, I don't want to say raunchy comedies, but people who are fans of raunchy comedies, this is for them. And my whole thing is, and I should say, it's not bad because they went in an adult direction with it. I'm one of the only people on the planet who loved the Angry Video Game Nerd movie. I mean, I think it's brilliant. And like you can make a thing like this for those of us that grew up with this stuff, and then you do some kind of more crude like silly vulgar stuff, but they're not consistent with it. And there's two like the stuff I laughed at was the wholesome stuff, and I wanted the whole movie to be like that.
You know, when you said the stuff I laughed at, I was aware of where the audience was laughing, you know, because I wasn't laughing, and so I was very curious to kind of see, how are other people responding? And the parts, at least in the theater that I was in, that got the most laughs were the angry screaming rants from the various characters on the screen.
Josh Gad especially.
Josh Gad, he had a couple really fun rants in there.
Where he'd like turn it on a dime and, go into...
He was fun to watch.
Yeah.
I don't understand that kind of insult comedy.
I don't either.
You have to dumb everybody in the scene down so that they don't respond to a thing that anyone would naturally respond to just to get through a speech.
There's one particular part that Josh does. There's one particular part where he turns and he starts yelling at a group of people. And when that happened, I thought, I think I just saw the highlight of the entire movie, and I'm still a little bit disappointed in it. So, and I think that's true. I think I still feel that way. So
here's another thing. I'm going to transition us just a little bit here. Not only is the script lazy in the sense that they don't connect dots well, they aren't creative with it, those kind of things, but it's not like we haven't seen this plot before either. I mean, is this not the basic plot of The Last Starfighter?
Is it not? Well, and then after that, did they not rip off Ghostbusters everywhere?
Yeah. And it felt like, and there were elements of Wreck-It Ralph in there. There were elements of...
Well, and that's the thing, is that you can't ride completely on nostalgia because we've already done this a few times and we've done it better. I mean, once you've had Wreck-It Ralph, you've got to step it up a little bit.
I truly wondered, because I had so much time in my brain to think, because this required me not to think at all. I was are they all sitting around a table, Adam and his creative crew, and going, I want to have a movie with these people in it, James and Josh and Peter, and I want to do something fun. I'd love to do something tied in with video games. And then it just became okay, well, we know what it takes to do a movie, so let's just check off all the boxes and make it. It just seems like this movie was made because these actors wanted to be in a movie like this. Not because somebody made a great plot and a great film, and then they went and looked for the people to, pull it off. It was like they all just got together and they were hanging out at a barbecue and decided to make a movie someday, and this is it.
Well, it looks like that's about what happened today. It's as simple as Adam Sandler saw a short on YouTube he liked, he bought the rights to it, and then he said, let's make this movie, which in principle is not a bad idea. I still say that, there's a really good like lampooning of Independence Day in here somewhere.
Yeah, there could be.
Well, I think it's fun because this movie does have potential. It does check off some boxes. You do have moments where you're connecting on some kind of a level, but it's also superficial. That this one just kind of left me wishing there was something that I would take away from this, but this is just going to leave my memory pretty quick, I think.
Aaron, I gotta say this real quick. Biggest quagmire for me, how did they get Chris Columbus?
Yeah, I wanted to mention that. I wanted to bring up the fact that Chris Columbus directed it because, I mean, he's done some really good stuff.
Well, he directed Home Alone, and he directed...
Who is this? This was the director?
Yeah, he directed Home Alone. He directed... What's
the
that?
first Harry Potter film.
Yeah, he directed a couple Harry Potters.
I guess the first 2 Harry Potter films. Yeah, and that's the thing is that there's a lot of like Brandon and I were watching this thing, and every now and again Brandon would look at me and he would go, "That shot is too artistic for this movie," and I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, you have a really competently directed movie out of a horrid script that I could rewrite better in an afternoon."
Did you guys? There's a major action sequence towards the end of this, and again, this is the kind of film where I'm looking around, I'm peeling apart different layers. Did you notice how they had their scene set up for like when they're in the streets, kind of that very last sort of action? It was really interesting because they'd have like a car, but they'd have like half of a car in the street, and then they'd have all these white blocks like up against it, and then they'd have these street-looking blocks in the middle, you know, to kind of give this actors and actresses a feel of what this environment's looking like as our world is being pixelated by, you know, these alien creatures. It was really interesting because you could see it. They didn't cover it up with CG, with more of the shiny cubes that we saw at the very beginning. It was just straight, raw, white blocks.
I didn't notice that. No,
I didn't notice that either. That's interesting. I don't know why you'd leave that in the movie.
I don't either. And I didn't know if it was because we had this feel like maybe after a while they just sort of like turn into solid colors. I don't know, because in this film, when we're attacked, the environment becomes pixelated. So if one of these creatures kind of like eats through a wall, the broken parts around the wall look like little pixels, and they kind of shine and shimmer, and it looks really. I mean, again, the CG of this is really fun to watch. It kind of has a center stage, but interestingly enough, Adam Sandler is not the central character the whole time either. Like, he shares the screen a lot with his fellow compadres, and thankfully so, because there's some, you know, like we said, there's a couple performances that start to shine.
Yeah. But again, I didn't buy any of those relationships. I wasn't invested in any of those relationships.
No.
The romantic relationship, the friendship relationships, none.
The father-son relationships.
Maybe slightly Sandler and James. Maybe just slightly that relationship.
Yeah, that was rough.
Clicked, but not anything that I cared about, really.
I think I've got the most genuine one. The little boy and Cubert. They had a good talk. They had a good relationship.
Spoiler alert, I want to talk more about that.
Yes.
In the spoilers, because there's some stuff that really bothered me about that whole section of the movie.
I'm sure.
All right, time for one final thing about Pixels, something you didn't get a chance to say, but you really want to say about the movie before we head to the next segment. Danae?
I'm going to pass off to Captain Logan. I'm still thinking.
All right, Cap, you got one final thing to say about Pixels?
See, the thing I want to say, I'm trying to decide if I should say for spoilers. I think I'm going to save the thing I was going to say for spoilers, and just say that my big thing, and I don't mean to harp on this, and like I said, this is not the reason the movie is not good. But man, my kid was so excited about this movie, and I'm not going to get to show it to him.
Oh, that does stink.
Oh man, that's like you can't give a kid a Christmas present. That's hard.
And I saw people bring their kids to it, and I got 15 minutes in and went, wow, this, I don't know. I don't think I'd take my kids to this movie.
Boy, I can't wait to get into specifics too, because I think it offended you even more than it did me. I'm trying to remember those. But what about you, Danae? What's one more thing for you?
One more thing for me. Ooh, now I was prompted in the comments to not say it was terrible.
Something other than it's terrible, which is basically what we've said.
I can't wait to review a good movie with Danae. I can't remember the last time that happened. Danae, what was the last good movie I talked about with you?
Oh my goodness.
I couldn't even tell you.
I'd have to think about that because I'm not.
Yeah, right?
It's been a while. Maybe it's because I'm just so negative about movies. I don't know.
Yeah. Honestly, Danae, I don't even know why we do this with you. You don't even like movies.
She loved Ant-Man. You guys should have an Ant-Man conversation.
Oh, man. Ant-Man.
See, I wish I'd been here for that because, that would have been fun to talk about.
We'll do a little bonus extras when we're talking about, we'll do spoilers and a little bonus extra conversation about Ant-Man because I can't wait to talk to you about that. I really am having a hard time. I'm really having a difficult time.
My one final thing is just to say, I really believe somewhere deep inside him, Adam Sandler actually is a decent content creator. Like, he can make fun stuff. I know he's done it. I just think it's easier to do the cash cows. It's easier to do this kind of thing, make some money, and then go to the next this kind of thing. But it gets sad after a point. I feel like I harp on him every single movie, and I don't know if it's because I expect more like out of him, and if I should just drop that, or if it's just that it's just not my kind of thing. But
Aaron, I just thought of something.
Yeah.
Maybe this is an insane thing to say, but and of course this is always the person that you compare him to. But when you go back and you look at something like Elf, and then you look at something like Stranger Than Fiction, I think Will Ferrell would have done this better.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think you give this to Ferrell, and he would have made it. He would have made the movie I thought I was going to.
Oh, if we're going to recast it, yeah, I think there's some people
Let's
that could
play that game.
I think there's definitely some people that could have had a lot more fun with it.
I don't know, because there wasn't a lot going on with the dialogue. I mean, there wasn't a lot there. That's
a fair point.
There
that's
were
a
so
fair
many.
point.
We can blame the writers more than we can blame Sandler. I mean, that's a good point. But then,
because when you were talking about blaming Sandler or getting upset, it's like, I don't know how much he had control over some of this. Like, and it wasn't just that their lines were bad. It was that they were moving and clipping through this story so fast. There was no real time to sit into these relationship building moments. It was entirely unrealistic.
See, my problem with it was that we spent too much time on them.
Yeah,
I just wanted I felt like that was all padding. I felt like I was watching a Transformers movie.
It's the same problem, right? You spend too much time on something that's not working. If it's working, then you're not spending too much time on it. But it's not working, so you are.
Just be a silly farce and don't pretend like you have a story.
Right.
It's the same thing as with Minions. Just do the jokes.
I would
just
love
do the action.
I would love to know if anyone
it.
decides to go and see this movie. I would love to know those thoughts, because this is kind of like one of those where it's so bad you probably should go see it, and then we can talk about it. Like, this is going to be, in my mind, one of the worst movies that I've seen. And those are sometimes fun to sit down and just like pick apart with people. I want to do a riff track on this one.
Yeah.
Like, this is the kind of movie that you want to sit with friends and you just riff on it the whole time. I'm sitting there and I'm trying to be critical, trying to put on, artistic eyes and accept this movie for what it is and think about what I'm going to say on the show and all this stuff. But really, I just wanted to rip it apart the whole time. Like, that would have been fun.
If I'm on that with you, Danae, by the third act, I'm just gonna cry. I'm just gonna break down and cry.
Comment says, the old, "You've got to try this. It's the worst."
Hey, this milk smells bad. Would you taste it?
Data in Star Trek Generations. I hate this. Would you like some more? Please.
Exactly. Another comment says, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." I'm wondering if that's true for this one. This could be one of those
I'm so much stronger now.
badge of honor movies for me.
That's
like,
right.
I survived Pixels.
If that's the case, can I just not have to pay to see movies?
Oh, man.
Whew. Anyway.
Yeah. So overall, I think we'd say this is not one you need to see.
Aaron, in your official movie reviews, what letter did you give it?
I give it a C-.
Huh.
Yep.
That makes me afraid for what else is out there.
I'm telling you, I see everything, and there are movies worse.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of movies I see that are worse than this.
C- though?
Yeah.
Aaron has to have a really interesting set of standards.
That's true. Captain,
I thought about D+, but I think C- is right. There. I mean,
Yeah.
if you are the type of person that can really turn your brain off and just
watch a movie.
just watch the nostalgia and the effects and laugh a couple times
and
that's
not
a
care at all
C-.
if any of it makes sense.
Right, yeah. And it's a C-. So yeah, that's where I
Okay.
landed.
So what you're saying is, like, take some medication and watch this movie.
No, that's not what
Okay.
I'm not endorsing
Okay.
self-medication. Not at all.
Have grandmother drive you, drop you off.
Yeah. Have a dental appointment, then go see this movie.
You'll have a blast. All right. Well, let's move on to the second segment. And I was inspired by thinking about all these old arcade games and wondered if we could talk a little bit about our favorite classic, whether it be arcade or even some of the early console games that we loved and kind of had that nostalgia for, whether they were mentioned in this or not. So what are some of your favorite old school gaming experiences. We'll start with you, Cap.
Well, I'll give you an arcade one, and then I can do some early console stuff. I'm a big Galaga guy. My dad used to roll Galaga machines. He was a master Galaga player, and he brought me up on Galaga. And I don't play nearly as well as him, but it's one of my favorite things.
What does roll a Galaga machine mean?
So old arcade machines, you would get to, if you got to a certain score, the machine would just start over. So like there'd be like a top score it could hit, and then it would just roll back to 0.
It didn't have enough pixels to get the next number in the line.
Whoa.
Yeah, and like the whole game would well, in fact, I don't even think the game would reset. I think it would keep going, because it was set up to where it would keep getting harder regardless. Like it was kind of unlimited levels, and if memory serves, and then but yeah, it would roll the number of points. And so yeah, that's
awesome.
That's one of my big ones.
He would have been the hero of this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. But see, that's the problem, is that if you know, there are a lot of people like me who had dads that were great at Galaga and other things, and all we had to do was call all those guys up and give them light guns. But yeah, that's my big one for arcade. And then when you go to NES and like even Super Nintendo and that kind of stuff, I was a huge Donkey Kong Country guy, and Mario World is my favorite Mario game.
What about you, Aaron?
Man, Donkey Kong Country, that was fun stuff. Man, that just sent me back. Arcade-wise, I didn't really get to arcades much, but when I did, I loved the classics. I loved Pac-Man. Asteroids was always fun for me. I played an early computer game on a Texas Instruments personal computer because one of my uncles or my grandpa or somebody worked in like a computing place, and so we had access to this early TI something computer, and there was a game on there called Parsec. Parsec, and it was just this ship that flew horizontally through this, atmosphere, and you just shot things or whatever. And I would come home and play that, till my fingers got raw. So that was absolutely one of my favorites. And I don't know that anybody else has even heard of that game, but it was fun.
My first video game I ever saw was my neighbors had a Nintendo, and Excite Bike was the...
Oh, yeah.
Excite Bike was my favorite thing to look at and then play. Try to figure out, you hit the little oil spot. And, man, I remember trying so hard to go back over to his house. Be like, Mom, please let me go over there and play. And I only got over there a few times. But that was, this huge pull for me. And then the first arcade game that I went to was, I think it was one of those where you sit down and you put you're sitting down, you're looking over the top of the screen. And I think it was Centipede.
Okay.
But I can't remember.
Centipede's
entirely.
a roller game, right? Isn't there a
big roller ball
on Centipede?
Yeah, there was a roller ball in the little panel.
So let's talk about this. I don't know that it's spoiler. Let's just talk about this right now. But how in the world does playing these games with a roller ball or finger dexterity relate to using a light gun? Why would that... all of a sudden you have
Aaron, we're
gun
done
training?
talking about the movie. We're done talking about the movie for now. We will rip it to pieces later.
The idea was supposed to be, if those soldiers don't know the pattern, then they can't break up the centipedes. But that all breaks down.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Pac-Man, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, the reason they had to have light guns was because they did an analysis on this small pixel, and they realized that light would destroy the pixel. I don't even know how that works. That whole movie falls completely apart.
The BDG says he had Parsec.
What?
I have a friend.
Aw.
So
that's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool. I also loved... what was the one that came with the original Atari? Combat. I used to sit and play Combat. Did you guys have Atari 2600s?
I didn't. I started with NES. I had one later on retroactively, but I didn't grow up with one.
Oh, and Missile Command.
I did not have a gaming system
and
until...
Kaboom.
My first gaming system I think my parents bought for my brother and I was a Genesis.
Now,
Wow.
Kaboom I played.
We didn't even have a Nintendo. We went to Genesis.
You kids. You missed the whole Atari thing. There was this game called Kaboom. Atari had a spin paddle. Was one of their controllers.
Yeah, that's how I played Pong.
Okay. Yes, yeah, that's what you would play Pong and Breakout, those kind of things with. and there was a game called Kaboom, and you had 3 buckets that were ascending, vertically, and there was like some sort of robber or somebody who escaped from jail at the top of the screen that would drop bombs across the screen, and you had to twirl and catch these bombs in these buckets, and every time you missed a bomb, you'd lose a bucket. I used to play that thing, oh, man, all the time.
And now it's Clash of Clans, friends. Now we're Clash of Clanning.
Aaron, what blows my mind is that, like, I work with folks on my channel now that are a lot younger than I am, and, like, their first system is, like, Nintendo 64 or PlayStation.
Oh, that's not okay.
I just can't get my mind around that.
They're like, what is the big deal about this pixel? Pixels are never that big and grainy. What are you talking about?
My first video game system was the Xbox 360. Yeah,
and I wish the movie had actually done some things with this, but I will say I did kind of dig that bit where Adam Sandler was like, you know how people used to leave their house and socialize?
Yeah, that was good. That was good. We went to an arcade where your friends were, and there were girls there, and we did something called
that. It's like
socialize.
those were the most antisocial outcast people, but at least, even they went out and talked to people.
Mostly to say, hey, can I have a turn?
my quarter is next.
That was your in. It's my turn.
All right. Any other thoughts on arcade games, those kind of things?
I got nothing.
All right. Let's do our buried treasure then. What's the one thing that you want to make sure people knows exists in pop culture? And I'm going to start this time.
Okay.
I have actually one I wanted to mention just briefly, which is if you, and this comes from kind of the topic in the movie, that kind of thing. If you haven't seen the documentary King of Kong, you have to find it and see it. It is brilliant. It is amazing. It's this documentary about the 2 best Donkey Kong players in their back and forth battle. And what's amazing about it is it all happened as they were doing the documentary. These amazing twists and turns in the story and the competition and all that kind of stuff happened. And I think, is that who they're basing the Dinklage character on?
I'm not sure. I have to look that up.
Okay. But it's called King of Kong, so I wanted to mention that one. But the one I saw this week that I wanted to bring up that doesn't have anything to do with the topic is, I think it's just called Tig, T-I-G, and it's a documentary about a comedian named Tig Notaro, who actually Danae introduced me to through the podcast, Professor Blastoff. And it's about her last, couple years where she, as a comedian, has dealt with cancer. She's dealt with a death in the family of her mom, and then she's dealt with other health issues. C. diff, I think, is what it's called. And a really interesting relationship. There's some really interesting things about her, and she's a lesbian, and her girlfriend, who was straight but is now her girlfriend. And the way they talk about that and the way they go into that was just some really interesting kind of discussion on love and humanity, and some really interesting things. No matter where you fall on your perspective or your beliefs or any of that kind of stuff, I think it's something you might find interesting. And beyond that, just the human drama of her life, I found absolutely fascinating with the way that she dealt with it. And of course, she's really funny too, which kind of helps move it along.
Always helps.
Yeah, so that's mine. It's called Tig, and it's just a documentary. I watched that this week. What about you, Cap?
Well, as I'm sure some of your listeners know, my big niche is superheroes, and specifically superhero movies. Last week, the X-Men Days of Future Past Rogue Cut came out, and that's the reason that I happened to be watching that movie just before I went and saw another Peter Dinklage movie. And the Rogue Cut is kind of Singer's director's cut for that movie, and they cut out a lot of, not a lot, but some of the future stuff in that movie. And the Rogue Cut makes it a little bit closer to X4 and X-Men First Class 2 simultaneously. I always thought that as much as I love that movie, the future stuff got a little bit shafted in the theatrical cut. And I won't go too much into the stuff they added, but that was the big thing, is they add back in this short subplot with Rogue, because she's basically not even in the movie, in the other cut, and that allows us to actually see the X Mansion in the future, which is really cool. So they do this kind of paralleling thing with the X Mansion in the future and the past, and it's kind of neat because because of what's going on in both respective stories, neither of them is what the X-Mansion is supposed to be. So it's kind of neat that we go to the future and do that stuff, and it kind of wraps up some loose ends from X3 a little bit and stuff like that. So I don't know that it's overall a better cut. I think it's interesting. I think some of the stuff they cut, they were right to cut. But I'm glad I saw it, and I'm glad that they released it that way instead of just deleted scenes.
Very cool. Let me ask you this. I have a question about the X-Men thing as somebody who, loves the comics and follows so much of it in depth and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The way that Marvel in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is handling the X-Men. They have X-Men in their universe, but they're not called X-Men. They're called something else, and they're just...
Well, they have the Inhumans, which Aaron are not X-Men. In fact, the Inhumans are already a Marvel thing from way back with Black Bolt and those guys. But the way that they're trying to incorporate them into the Marvel Cinematic Universe is to replace X-Men because they hate that they don't have X-Men. So they're turning them into X-Men, but they were never that before.
Oh, interesting. So that's an existing property that that they are kind of replacing X-Men with. Because you look at who are the crossover X-Men that were just in the last Avengers movie.
You're talking about Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver.
Yes, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are in the X-Men universe, but they're calling them Inhumans now?
Well, no. We've got... See, I'm trying to remember if they're actually... See, I think that they're not actually Inhumans in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think they were just experimented on by Hydra and given their powers.
Well, because I know in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they're dealing with a lot of these,
Yeah, they're dealing with the human stuff, but I don't think... I think everybody thought those characters were going to be Inhumans, and I actually don't think they are. I don't think they have anything to do with, like, the Terrigen Mist or anything. But the idea is, with Inhumans, is they're similar to mutants, and that you're kind of born with it, except that your powers don't manifest until you hit this seemingly magical mist thing that manifests it.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
And that's how that works. But yeah, that's exactly what Marvel's doing. They're trying to kind of turn the Inhumans into the new X-Men, and they're doing it to them in the comics now too, because they're trying to, and I find that really irksome and irritating. But they're trying to kind of create some consistent branding across their lines. So past the reboot that they're doing, they're kind of mixing X-Men a lot with Inhumans. Because they don't like that Fox has that property, and apparently the deal is whenever they create a new X-Men character, like regardless of anything, Fox is instantly able to use that character and put it on screen. So they don't want to create new X-Men characters.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting.
So yeah, there's a whole thing there, but anyway, I don't know if I answered your question. But.
No. That's exactly what I was asking about. I wondered how you felt about that and what you knew about that, and I love all the knowledge you have on that stuff. So I wanted to glean some. Danae, did you find some buried treasure?
I was just gonna say at least Fox is doing good things with X-Men. I mean, at least if Marvel can't have it, we got great things going on.
Yeah, I agree.
I started watching Alias for the first time ever.
Oh.
I have Hulu, and so they have the Alias series on there. I decided to click on it and start watching. And my experience with Jennifer Garner has not been always positive. And then quite suddenly I'm like, oh, this is great. She's doing a great job. Like, this is really
You can kind of see why people fell in love with her. And,
yeah, I can totally understand it now because I've never watched it before. And so it's a super, super intense start to a series. They really just start you right in the middle of this intense world, and it's really fun too because you're going back in time and to compare it to how series are made today with the different song choices and
like background music.
Yeah, or even their
it was very techno, if I remember.
Well, even the music for let's say that things are getting intense, know, and there's a like a fight scene or maybe she's going through and she's getting stuff because she's a spy and she's running through this place and it's super intense music. It's something that you would hear out of a movie. It's very built in and it's really, really dramatic. So it's really interesting to kind of pull back a little bit and kind of see what they were doing back in the day. I didn't realize until Aaron told me that it was Joss Whedon.
No, J.J. Abrams.
J.J. Abrams did it, which I didn't realize
right?
that.
Yeah, that was J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, that was his first big series.
I was going to say, that's where I fell in love with J.J.
So that was fun. I was like, oh, okay.
There's some lost parallels here and there.
And I was noticing, I'm seeing actors and actresses that I've seen before, but here they are, and they're younger, and so I'm really enjoying it. I plan on watching the whole thing. I haven't binge watched it. Like I'll watch like sometimes 2 episodes or 1 episode at a time to kind of get through it.
How far are you into the Rambaldi stuff?
Oh,
because that starts right at the beginning, doesn't it?
Pretty early, because I think I'm only like 6 or 7 episodes in, and we're in the Rambaldi stuff.
I fell in love with that stuff. I just love the way
she just discovered the underground notebook, and her partner was shot while she was out there, and she had to call in for backup from the CIA. So she's under like her SD.
Such a great show. SD6. Mm-hmm. Arvin Sloan.
They're trying to figure out who the mole is, and
right.
So it's got this multiple layers of complexity, and
her dad's a double agent too.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
So anyhow, I'm really enjoying kind of connecting in with that one.
And also a young, who's the guy?
Cooper.
Yeah, Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, was surprised to see him too. I was like, oh, I have seen you since then.
Austin in the comments mentions that he thinks the music was done by Michael Giacchino, however you say his name.
Yeah, Giacchino.
Who J.J. Abrams has worked with since then. So like he's also done the music for Lost. He did.
I love
music.
it.
He also works with Pixar a lot too. He did the music for I think Up and a couple of the other movies.
But there's the reason that I even noticed it in the first place was I'm like, why is my heart pounding so bad? Because I'm kind of multitasking. I'm like looking at my phone and like maybe working a little bit, and it's kind of on the background. And then I'm realizing like it's this music. This music is like really making this super intense. So it's good whenever music can do that.
Giacchino's become a big deal. He just did Jurassic World.
Yeah,
so he's scored the third biggest movie of all time.
Yeah, he's one of the go-to composers. You can name like 2 or 3, and he's in the top.
See, that's another thing I like about watching a series, which this will happen a lot as we talk about movies and TV, because I really didn't get into a lot of the really popular stuff when it came out. So we'll start going into those, which is kind of fun to go back, and then I'll finally watch a movie that I was supposed to watch however long ago or whatever. So it's really cool to go back and watch this this show that was really, really popular. I remember people talking about it all the time, and
that it was the first thing for these huge people now,
and have like a newfound respect knowing that these guys are still in the industry, they're still making stuff, they're still really successful. So anyway,
Brenton asks in the comments what I thought of the ending of Alias, and I guess this is the answer. I don't remember how it ended, so probably didn't think all that much of it. I didn't seem like it was one that stuck the landing, like it went out with something that was
how many
great,
seasons were there? I don't even know.
I don't remember either. Cap, did you watch the show all the way through?
I didn't. I that's one on my list of things, and I love Jennifer Garner. I've just never done it. I think it was 5 or 6 or 7.
Okay.
It seems like it was in that range.
I'm going to go look.
It was in syndication range somewhere, but I don't remember the ending. But I remember a lot like people say about Lost, which I actually have a different opinion on Lost. But
6.
That the Rambaldi stuff got so confusing and kind of folded in on itself that it was kind of hard for them, I think, to work their way out of that. But
Hulu has through season 5, so if it's the entire thing, which I would hope that they would put the entire thing on here, then I have 5 seasons, in the 5th season, 17 episodes. So I'll keep you guys updated on it. Kind of mention
maybe
how I'm enjoying it.
Maybe you can remind me how it actually ends when you get there, because I totally forget.
Unless I get lost along the way.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's amazing that now we live in where technology can take us back and we can watch, all these shows and these different things, and in our
own time.
Yeah, makes it nice.
Wow. Well,
Is it done?
Yeah.
Are we to the end of our hour?
These hours always go by so fast.
Well, here's the good news. We've got a lot of extra content coming your way. So, Danae, talk a little bit about. Well, here, let me play the outro music. I'm going to give you some outro music. There you go. See? There's a little music in the background.
Thanks to our supporters of Patreon. This show exists because people are fans of the show, are supporting us at a website called Patreon. We post extras. In fact, today we've got a huge extra we're going to be posting. So even if you're just giving $1 a month, you have access to every single thing we do and more that will never be released to the public.
That's right. So all of our supporters at Patreon will get to hear that interview we did with the band Carrollton today, which was so much fun. And again, like I said, we'll play a portion of that probably on next Tuesday's show.
Yeah, I'd
so you
love
can
to be
hear
able
some
to
of it
play that.
on Shoe the Dough proper as well. But we'll have it all up there in the extras.
So this is an episode of SiftPop, which is our pop culture segment. We are going to be recording our spoilers episode, and that will appear in the SiftPop podcast feed. So if you are subscribing to SiftPop on iTunes or Stitcher, you will see our spoiler review here in just I think tomorrow afternoon is when we release that.
Yeah, and thanks for being with us. And Captain, good to have you along again, man.
Yeah, man, it was fun.
Absolutely, and maybe sometime soon we'll have you come by and actually review a good movie.
To all those in the chat room, thank you guys.
That would be so much fun. Well, you know, I think FF could be good.
Yeah, that's probably the next one we'll do. That's a couple weeks from now, huh? Fantastic Four. So maybe that will be the one.
Yeah.
That could be the one.
That could be fun.
Yeah, thanks. We didn't even shout out to our chat. Monstrix, Humberto's there, Brenton, Austin's there, Sherry's there. I saw Jennifer there for a while as well.
A handful of people that aren't necessarily logged into Mixler, so
Correct.
we can't see your name, but thank you guys so much for streaming our show and for taking the time to tune in with us today. We will see you on Tuesday at noon for another episode of Shoe the Dough, and then, of course, every Friday at noon is an episode of SiftPop. We'll see you guys later.
Yup.
And we're clear.
No, we're not. We're still recording.
And we're still recording. And how do I turn it off again?
When it asks you if you want to stop the recording, you hit yes, not no.
Oh, let's try it again.
Okay, here, stop.
Okay. Did I press no?
No, you're supposed to press yes.
And we're clear.
No, we're still not clear.
And we're still recording.
We're still live. Not just recording, we're still live.
And,
this is where you hit yes.
And we're on the radio. Okay, this one, right?
Yes.
Okay, bye. Welcome to the spoiler episode of SiftPop.
Spoiler alert, you're gonna die.
What? Oh, because of the movie.
No, not because of the movie.
Like
we
life?
We just all do.
Wow, dude.
It's spoiler.
That's heavy, man.
Spoiler alert.
Is it too much? Too morbid? Spoiler. Here, let's try it again. Spoiler alert, you're gonna get hungry.
Okay, at the very least, could this not be the last movie I see before that?
So today we reviewed Pixels, which is an Adam Sandler movie. You may have already heard our regular, our show proper, as Captain Logan likes to call it, for this movie. But this is the spoiler segment where we're going to go kind of deeper into it and definitely spoil some plot line for you.
Okay, I'm going to start with Qbert because I have something to get off my chest. That little being should have never have said a word. That made me so mad that he was talking and communicating and...
Qbert doesn't speak.
Right?
Except for gibberish.
Where did he even come from? Why was he there? Well, the moment somebody picked him up, I was like, oh my God, you're going to get deep... Oh, no.
And he can just go ahead and turn into another actual character at the end?
Oh. Let's talk about that for a second. Why is she turning into a human? How does
that even work?
Why are none of them turning themselves into humans to destroy the planet Earth? If they really wanted to destroy planet Earth, if they were really...
They could just infiltrate us. They could be like Skrulls.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I mean... I
love the fact that we can just jump into this because we're assuming if you're listening to this that you have seen the movie or don't care to see the movie. But, for context, this is a character that was in a video game that one of the characters loved. Literally loved.
Yeah.
And so she comes down as a pixelized version, and then of all the characters, she actually
turns into a human.
Turns into the 3D actual person.
This movie, the entire premise of the movie is that this young kid did not win first place in a contest, and it ruined him so that he spent the rest of his life feeling like a failure, and then his payout is that not only does he save the world because he can play video games, but also he has to play against the very video game that he failed at all the years previous.
Which was Donkey Kong.
Which,
by the way, was nothing like Donkey Kong.
No.
No,
he doesn't win because he was good at it, and also it's not in 2 dimensions, so all you have to do is stand on the side and let the barrels roll off.
Did you see that that's what James did?
No.
So at one point they're like, you just have to jump over him, and then and then they all start jumping over.
He just backs up and lets a barrel go off the edge.
Yeah, because he's not going to jump over that. He's just not.
Well, I don't know why not, because one of the characters, I'm sure when they panned back, did like a double flip in the air forward over one of the barrels. When did they get that ability? Like, how did that happen?
I guess it's just because she's a colonel.
Right.
She's a colonel, so she can do that.
A colonel who is everywhere in this movie. She's also the one that's giving them debriefing before they go in and get Peter Dinklage. Like, she's filling all of the roles of this movie. You know, the
also
female,
the love interest.
the female lead.
That's one of the big issues I had, was that all of that was so incredibly contrived. Like, it's bad enough that they both happen to be going to the White House, but like at exactly the same time, and like the person that he's fixing or that he's like installing TVs and stuff for just happens to be a colonel at the White House. Really?
Yeah, it's a movie built entirely on convenient plot development, and the plot isn't really something that needs to be developed at all. But so, Captain, during the show proper, you really mentioned that you were upset because this movie was painted as a kids movie, and if you listen to our show proper, you'll learn more about kind of our deeper thoughts on the acting and different things. So please feel free to listen to that, and then kind of like this will be piggyback on the back of that side.
Yeah, this is meant as an addendum to that review.
In addition to what we thought before, here are some more specifics. So I would really like to hear more about your thoughts on your disappointment in this movie as far as going in as a father figure.
Well, I just don't think that a lot of the like mentions of sexual material and kind of more vulgar stuff is really warranted in a thing like this. Like, if it was more consistent tonally and it went all the way with it. I mean, if this was like Hot Tub Time Machine with video games, okay, but the problem is it's like sometimes it feels kind of wholesome, and then sometimes it goes to those places. And I felt exactly the same way as I did when I saw the first Transformers, which is a movie that's, you know, is meant for families and kids are supposed to see it. And then all of a sudden there's masturbation talk. I mean, it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I don't think Sandler can help himself, though. I just think that's what he thinks is funny, and that's where he wants to go.
And I'm complaining much more about the advertising than I am about the movie when I'm talking about that.
Right.
Because they and Danae, I know that you guys go really trailer free and you don't look at that stuff, but go back and look at the trailers for this movie. They made absolutely certain that they took out any of that kind of stuff. And they just it's falsely advertised, all the way down to the Pac-Man creator in the trailer yells, "Stop this! Somebody stop this thing!" Like, he says "thing," and clearly his and that was the thing I noticed with the trailer. I was like, okay, they're going to have some language because his voice is not matching with the word he's saying.
Right.
But I really didn't think it would go as far as it did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know I'm not being really specific. I don't know, stuff like the Martha Stewart thing and stuff like that. I just don't want that in a movie I'm taking my kids to.
Yeah, and that stuff is just, it's ridiculous, left field, extreme. Like, okay, how far can we take this joke?
Well, and here's the other thing Sandler does that I think is a little sexist, actually, is he will play that. Let's take the Martha Stewart, Serena Williams, and just so you have the total context, one of the characters, one of their demands for saving the world is that they try to hook him up with both Serena Williams and Martha Stewart for
a quote sandwich.
For a quote sandwich, yes. So, I mean, if that's, not lewd enough. But what Sandler does is he will play a woman as if, like, for instance, Serena's in the movie and says, no, this isn't happening. And then at the end, it completely goes 360, and she's waving from the window with Martha Stewart, like, come on up, big boy, it's time to go.
Just because they saved the world.
Yeah.
And everyone's super superficial in this is part of the problem, too. Like, why do we have to condone that behavior that Danae was talking about earlier with the guy with the chick that somehow rather can turn human when she's pixelated? Why do we have to condone that? Why can't we have him have a character arc where he learns how to be less superficial and less socially awkward?
Exactly.
Why can't we do that?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And I feel like the movie almost pretends like he's doing that, which is insulting, and again, really bad for kids.
Yeah, it's on the surface. If you're just looking at the picture itself, like, maybe you would think that there's something good and wholesome that could be happening. But if you're listening to it, and if you're taking the context of the rest of it, it's a very insulting movie. It's intellectually insulting.
Just don't trick parents into taking their kids to see it. I mean,
Yeah.
I get different flavors for different people. Some people find this
Sure.
kind of thing funny. I don't. That's fine. But don't trick parents into taking kids to a thing that looks like it's for them because it's got. I mean, 30 years ago, nearly every video game was harmless for kids.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's I don't know, that's just that they're playing on those sensibilities. Now, I would love that movie to be a thing that families can go to, but partly just because I think we should encourage kids to go back and play those games. They're still great, and a lot of them hold up, and a lot of them are harder and more challenging than what we have now.
To make this movie really work, I mean, as much because we wanted it to work, when it had a lot of potential. The other thing that they really would need to do is to develop that bad guy more. We're working against an alien that we don't understand, and they just barely kind of casually mention how potentially it works through Qbert, who isn't supposed to be talking, and it's just a very... And
is Qbert an alien, or
Yes.
is he a toy of the aliens?
Qbert-
Is he? They say he's a trophy.
from
Are they
what
giving their own beings
Yes.
as trophies to
Yes.
us?
I guess
Yes.
because he talks about what it's like on his planet.
Yes, he is part of the alien race taking form as these video games.
Oh, I guess they also
are
take
energy.
us as trophies.
Yes, and then so it was a trade-off. Like if they won, they would have their trophies, which are the people that they abducted, and if we won, then we would get trophies, which is why there's also Duck Hunt running around in our universe.
Well, Duck Hunt has cozied up to a grandma somewhere who...
But eventually grandma dies and he doesn't because he's light, so it's like so we've got these interesting kind of like, okay, and we've got this merger of these these worlds, and Qbert at the end sacrifices himself to become a pixelated version of the other one of the characters' video game love interest, and then they have Qbert babies. So
I had already put that out of my mind.
So
Yeah.
in addition,
I was trying to.
we have
Today, don't talk about Jupiter ascending.
In addition, we now have the ability for the human race and this alien race to procreate
somehow,
and have babies that are based on the original trophy version, but not their original form. Like, it's just, again, you can't think about this movie. You can't think about it. You just, if you want to go see it, just go in with your brain numb and try to smile at the parts that you find humorous. And if the rest of it offends you, you got to just build up some walls and try to enjoy yourself, or just avoid it altogether. I would say avoid it altogether.
I think one thing we didn't talk about, and because I do think it's more of a spoiler at the end, is how many different video game references there are at the end. That that was one of my favorite parts, was spotting the references. Spotting whether it be Frogger or
Duck Hunt or whatever.
You know what though, Aaron? They cheated really hard because tons of that is post 1982.
What's that?
I said they cheated really hard because a lot of what they threw out was post 1982.
Yeah, and they don't care. I mean, that makes no sense with the plot, because we haven't said it, but the plot is basically that the aliens intercepted a communication from 1982 about a video game competition, and so they thought that was a challenge to be in a video game competition.
What happened is that the president of the United States put together a video compilation of what that year entailed, and part of the video game, arcade game thing was included in that, which is why they used all those 1980s references in those.
And by the way, I gotta say, some of that was kind of cool.
Some of that was cool, like the Madonna part, or
I thought the Madonna one worked. I thought the Hall & Oates one was awful. I thought the Hall & Oates one didn't work at all.
The Reagan one was good.
So that's what they did, is that all of that was from that beam that was shot into space to communicate with life. So this alien race receives that message and takes it as an act of war, and they interpret it as, okay, well, we're going to go to war and we're going to use these video games to come and attack you.
And so,
or the form of these video games to come and attack you. And so, of course,
what you're saying is right, Cap. I mean, if they sent that in 1982 and then there's all these video game references that are post 1982, that doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense.
There are no rules. Would someone please, and this is a big thing I think we've got to talk about, would someone please explain to me how the cheat code works?
Oh, how?
That was one I wanted to bring up too.
How is it that we can break the laws of physics And the big thing for it, because they made that a giant plot point. They make it a big mystery. It's like, oh, how did Peter Dinklage's character scoot around like that? Oh, use a cheat code. Okay, well, there's a bunch of huge problems. First of all, you wouldn't use a cheat code for a ghost.
Well, and you wouldn't use a cheat code in that manner at all. Like, how is he supposed to see something on his glasses? Let's just talk about the original competition. What is he seeing on his glasses?
That's a good point.
That is actually going to help him win the game.
I guess they're codes that or how to wiggle your whatever.
Honestly, I didn't know that those games even had cheat codes.
What are they?
No, they don't. You're talking about the joystick?
The joystick,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't think they did. And I mean, I don't know. Even if they did, I don't understand how that works in real life with a car.
The only thing that serves of him cheating is allowing Adam Sandler to become a hero again.
Yeah, that's it. You're absolutely right. And he doesn't do anything at the end that's all that heroic that anybody else is doing.
No, I mean, I guess they win the Pac-Man game, but then it would have been one more game for the final life because it's three losses equals, game over. So at that point, even if we had won, we would be even. So it'd be the next one. So it'd be the tie would be the one to, one side would win, one side would lose or whatever.
But it also ruins why these have to be our heroes, because if somebody programmed those cars down to the cheat codes, then that guy should be one of the people going against the aliens, right?
But the truth is, and I'll say it again, there's very little correspondence to playing a video game at an arcade in shooting something out of the sky.
Or driving a car.
Or driving a car.
Yeah.
That was the hardest part for me watching this movie, was just not only do all the relationships not make sense, like how does somebody go from going to install your TV to all of a sudden becoming somebody that you're attracted to, and like
well, because she was crying in the closet and drinking wine with him.
There's so many assumptions made about how relationships work. And the sad thing at the bottom of this is, if Adam Sandler thinks that this is how real relationships work, he has a sad life, and I hope this is just his humor points, like that he's just like throwing it out to the world. He's creating these sort of storylines because he's just sticking it to the man or whatever he's doing. I hope he doesn't really believe, because obviously there's some angst about, well, I'm just this guy, but if I had a yacht, I would be worth it. Or if I saved the world, I'd finally be worth it. So who is Adam Sandler talking to in his life that he's trying to prove himself to? Because he needs to have a real great relationship. He needs to have a real person that
I
really...
doubt that he is. He's just writing by the numbers.
Yeah, and it's also negative too. Not only just the humor is, making fun of people, but also even romantic relationships are about making fun of each other.
Yeah,
and picking on each other, and it's not a movie I can relate with or enjoy, like, and on that level, I'm not finding anything there for me. So then I go to the visuals, and that's pretty much visually. I enjoyed the movie visually, just alone. No, I loved the centipede stuff. Visually,
yeah,
I thought that was spectacular.
There was some really fun stuff in this. And even visually watching the performances, just seeing these actors really get into their characters and really perform, that was also fun. The words that they were speaking, like, and probably a lot of it was off the cuff, I'm assuming, especially from Josh's point. But anyway, I can pull like a little bit out of it. I would definitely not give it a C, though. I would definitely give it an F. A D, maybe. I'll give it a D.
Yeah, you're not far off from my C minus by the time you get to D.
I'll give it a D minus.
And then you'll see something else and realize, oh, I need a lower grade.
I hope not, because if there's worse movies than this that we have to watch for SiftPop, there's a lot of girls out there in the world. Let's be like, you can find another girl, because
I don't know, man. A couple years ago, I sat through R.I.P.D. and I would watch this again in a heartbeat over that.
Oh, that movie was awful, too.
See, that's the stuff that I'm right now spared of. Like,
Jupiter Ascending was worse than this.
Oh, yes, it was. Yes, by a lot. Yes, it was.
I'm thinking about that.
It was.
I'm thinking about that.
It was.
Oh, no, it was. This movie had a structure, and that movie didn't. The end. End of story. Game over.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about Jupiter Ascending and how they responded to it. And one of the people was like, she's like, the dragons are wearing denim coats. Why are the dragons wearing denim jackets? somebody made those jackets and cut holes in them for the wings. This does not make sense. Anyway, I laughed really, really hard at that part.
Oh, that's good stuff.
All right, well, thanks for listening to our... actually, I guess I should say before we wrap up, is there anything else spoiler-wise that you guys want to hit before we wrap
I'm good.
up on our spoiler
I've talked
episode?
about this movie much more than I ever needed to.
Captain, anything else you want to spoil?
Well, real one thing I really wanted to say was, Danae, you said that there was nothing relatable in this movie, and there doesn't have to be if you make it a straight-up absurd farce. I just don't think they were consistent about that. If you take a thing like this and you make it on the level of something like Head of State, or like the Police Academy movies, you can make it work.
I agree with that. If they would have taken it in a couple different directions, I actually completely agree with that. It's just this tried to go in so many.
It should have been Naked Gun. You need the kind of thing where Leslie Nielsen is sitting there with his ex-girlfriend, and she tries to hit him, and then he grabs her hand, and then she tries to hit him with another hand, and he grabs that hand, and then a third hand comes out of nowhere. We need that kind of in this movie.
Yeah, it needed to make fun of itself even more. It took itself too seriously, and I think that definitely was like, oh, I'm supposed to be taking this seriously, and there's nothing to be taken serious about this one.
Kevin James is president.
Enough said.
The end.
Well, so that's the SiftPop spoiler podcast. Once again, thank you guys so much for subscribing and listening. You can also catch our Shoe the Dough show. We do those live on Tuesdays at noon.
Shoe the Dough Patio show.
It's a podcast / live radio
Live
show.
like radio. Subscribable like a podcast.
It's a Shoe the Dough Patio show.
Danae is still trying to get you to stop saying that.
She's trying to get me to stop saying a lot of things. She doesn't even like us calling it buried treasure at the end of the SiftPop.
It's true.
Oh, really?
I lose some battles.